Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Wildcat Way Show. My name is Kari Valance.
And I'm Kendale Lumpkins. Welcome to the newly dropped episode of our Wildcat Way Show, a show in which we hope encourages and inspires all who are watching on YouTube and or listening on our podcast.
A new episode of the Wildcat Way Show will drop every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. on our YouTube channel and our iTunes account, so be sure to check that out. We will discuss current events and topics impacting us and our communities and how we are intentionally being positive through all aspects of our lives. Today we're going to start our part 2 episode from our topics. Last week's episode we spoke about having healthy relationships and really cultivating those relationships in a positive manner. Today we're going to talk about the flip side of that, which is outgrowing relationships. And I know that, we've all outgrown relationships at some point of our lives. What do you think are some kind of big red signs that you can look to say, man, maybe this really isn't a healthy relationship or something that I should involve myself in?
So Kari, the truth is that we all outgrow them because some people choose to stop growing or they may grow in a different direction.
True.
So that's what I look for whenever we're talking about outgrowing relationships, your morals, your values, your belief systems.
Right.
Not that we have to always align on those things.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is if it no longer serves me where I am today, then it may be kind of detrimental to where I'm trying to go if you're reminding me of my past instead of where I want to be in the future.
Well, that's true, right? Because the whole purpose in life is to work towards your future. So there's no point of surrounding yourselves with people that are just going to hold you back from that, right? And so sometimes it can just be something as glaring as, we just don't have our goals aren't aligned and our goals aren't in common. If you're not working to better yourself, why would I want to be, around you at any point?
Yeah, and then what I think the challenging part is that some people fear, having that conversation or fear that this being somebody, man, I've been knowing this person for 20 years and we're no longer vibing, we're no longer gelling, the energy is not the same and we've grown apart. But that's natural, right? And I think it's natural to outgrow certain things. When you was a child, you used to like to do certain stuff. And that person may still be stuck in that and it doesn't make them bad. That's one point that I really want to re-emphasize is that just because you may come to college and you have friends that were in high school and you go back home for a weekend or you go back for a summer and those people that you were cool with at the time still doing the same stuff, you could have met some new friends on campus, got connected to some new people in the organization or at your job that inspired you to want to be better, do better than what those people did. So that's natural. You're going to get connected, you're going to be exposed to more stuff, and some people don't have that exposure, so they may stay in their ways, stuck in their ways. Absolutely.
Well, see, stuck in their ways is a perfect way to put it. And it's not a negative thing. Some people are just more comfortable being in that bubble and inclusivity like that. But sometimes people want more, right? And you want to try new things. And if you feel like maybe someone's holding you back from doing that, then that's when you have to realize, okay, you can just be stuck in your ways, as you said, but I want to try new things. Yeah,
because when you say some people just want more, there's nothing wrong with wanting more. There's nothing wrong with want to be better, be the best version of yourself. And the reality is that what happened, I could tell you about what happened to me in certain situations, is that your growth can make some people insecure. So that they could start targeting, they could start attacking you in certain ways to where it makes you feel kind of bad, as if you've done something wrong to grow. I was not supposed to be 18 and acting the same at 35. I was supposed to evolve. And I think Muhammad Ali said this. He said, a man that views life the same way at 20, if he views life the same way at 50 as he did at 20, then he wasted 30 years of his life.
Oh, sure.
Right? So that means you wasted a lot of time with your life if you still like to do the same stuff at 20 at 50 that you did at 20. Not all things are changed, but most things when you're 50 don't seem the same, right?
Well, it's not just things that you like to do. It's kind of your fundamental viewpoints on things change, right? Your way of thinking is different now in your 30s than it was when you were a teenager or in your young 20s. I mean, we just have a different life, different responsibilities, things that we have to take care of and look forward to also that you weren't thinking about back then. But then some people that you might have been doing the same things with back then are still doing those same things, and they're making those same decisions that now, okay, that's not a decision that I can even afford to make these days.
Yeah, because right, like when you talk about the responsibilities that we have now. So every decision that I make don't just affect me now.
Right.
My wife and my kids are affected by it. So some people think that I'm much older than what I am because I live like people in their 50s to a certain extent.
Right.
I don't feel 50.
Right.
But I just value family. And I didn't want to wait till I was 50 to start valuing how important my wife and my kids are, right? So there may be time whenever somebody, hey man, come out, come do something, come, hey man, look, I don't be out past 10 o'clock at night.
Right. Well,
whenever I'm home, like, and I'm good.
Right. Well, I mean, that was like a point I was going to make about people that maybe you feel drain your energy. I know I talk about this a lot. You don't want to give your battery charge to someone who's not giving it back to you. There's no reciprocity in that. So you have to really make conscious decisions. Is this someone that I'm going to take 2 hours of my life away from my family and kids and work and give to them instead? And you have to make sure that those people that you are giving your time and energy to are deserving of that.
Exactly. And when you talk about time, Kari, everybody's busy.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Our lives are not just, people are just sitting still. So whenever I give you my time, that means something. Right. And then I think when it comes to the relationship piece of it, relationships take time. You have to be very selective in who you're spending your time with, who you choose to pour into, and who you choose to allow to pour into you.
Absolutely.
And that's where the growth happens, right? Whenever you start to realize, hold up, my friends now push me to be better. They want me to be better. They cheer me on, right? Opposed to the friends that I've had growing up. They may not do any of that. And it's not that they're bad, it's just that they hadn't been exposed to it, and that no longer serves me or serve us in a relationship. And
you know, that can be a hard pill to swallow sometimes when you come to that realization.
Because you got to let people go that you love.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's just, it comes to the point where you're like, you know what, I just don't miss them anymore. And I've gone a week without speaking to them, and a week can naturally just turn into a couple of weeks, can turn into a month. And still, when you see them, you're like, hey, what's up? How's it going? Let's catch up, But you find yourself, am I really going to pick up the phone and make that step to reconnect? Or am I just okay with the way things are happening?
And Kari, a lot of people think that it's a conversation you have to have, right? Like, I'm about to call this person and tell them I've outgrown this relationship.
Yeah, because how awkward
that kind of be awkward. That would be kind of disrespectful, kind of undermining too. But what I think happens is it naturally flows. Whenever you pick up the phone and you hadn't talked in a week, and you're talking about your career, you're talking about your wife and kids, and you hear their conversation and they're talking about, man, this party. Man, I was out last night, and I'm like, that stuff don't mean anything to me anymore. So over time, and it'll fix itself. That's why I always tell, you know, they got this popular saying, people say, well, I cut people off. I don't have to cut anybody off. All I got to do is just continue following purpose, and whoever don't line up with purpose where I'm going, it automatically happens.
And it's not like you even have to avoid, like, make a decision, I'm just going to avoid them. It's you're just, but you know, when you're prioritizing like your weekly schedule, if they don't fit in that week, they just don't fit in.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think so many people, because I'm telling you, I mentor and I talk to young people all the time, and they have a hard time breaking away from these people that they've been so loyal to, that they've seen all their life. And I still love people that I don't talk to every day. That I may talk to once or twice a year. But where I'm going in life now, that relationship doesn't fit. It'll actually take me back, or set me further back than I really want to go. So that relationship no longer serves where I'm trying to be. And I think young people especially have to realize that, man, it's okay to outgrow some people.
Absolutely. And I mean, it just goes, especially when you're young, you're only friends with those people because of circumstance, right? You'll go to the same school, you live in the same town. It is what it is. But once you come to PRCC and you're around all these new people, you have a completely new chance to surround yourselves with people who share your same values, who you have things in common with. At first, you know, they start off as kind of surface friendship. Let's get to know each other. Let's spend a little time together. Let's go play basketball. Let's go form a study group in the library. Let's go eat lunch together. Then you are purposely seeking each other out on campus. And you're like, hey, do you want to join this team with me? Do you want to go to the bonfire tonight? Do you want to go watch the game with me? And that's how you build these friendships. And so you get the chance to start anew and just create new lasting contacts in that aspect.
And so I've just experienced something. So a friend of mine, I grew up with him. We played Little League baseball. He got in an accident. and he died, right? And so I went back and I saw all the family, saw all the people, and it was actually good seeing them. It's just that their lives and my lives, they don't collide anymore, right?
Right.
And it don't mean I don't love them.
Sure, yeah.
It don't mean that I wouldn't be there if they called. It's just that my day-to-day life, when you talk about planning your week, like, Kari, we really have a tight schedule.
Oh yeah, right.
And so anything that's not gonna fit in that schedule means I've outgrown it, right? Because it no longer serves, it no longer feeds, it no longer helps. And that's one thing that I keep re-emphasizing, man, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
It's just that this is life, this stuff happens. Right. And you're not gonna be cool with people that you were once cool with when you were 12 and 13 years old.
Are you ready to join the fastest growing community college in Mississippi? Pearl River Community College is ready for you. With improvements at each of our 4 locations in Poplarville, Hattiesburg, Waveland, and online, securing your future has never been more exciting. 42 career and technical programs and academic transfer options allow you to build a bright future at the river. When faced with adversity, Wildcats never quit. Visit prcc.edu to learn more. Well, it comes to a point where you have to ask yourself, would I be friends with this person if we met now?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, isn't that crazy? Because I can think in my head of people that it's no bad thing on them, no bad thing on me, because I feel like they probably feel the same way about me. Because now we don't have anything in common, you know? So I don't really think that they would want to hang out with me. I might not be their type of fun, you know? So like, if we wouldn't have been in that circumstance when we were kids, would we even be friends on this day? And sometimes you just need to come to that realization and say, all right, maybe it's just not worth it for me to put that effort in.
Yeah, because you made me think about something when you talk about circumstances that made us, and I think about where I was raised. I think about, I really didn't have a choice.
Right, yeah.
Right, now I could have chose who I wanted to hang around if it was depending on this amount of people. But the reality is I had to choose who I chose, right? And now that you say that, it's like, would I really would have been friends with certain people if I wouldn't have been in those circumstances? Or if I'm today, would I want to be a friend? And I think sometimes the answer is really no, because the morals, the values, the beliefs, what we have in common is like far east and west.
Absolutely. And I think that can happen kind of in any stage of your life, right? Like, think about our parents. My mom is very fortunate to still be best friends with a few of her high school friends. Like, they just had their high school reunion last year, and she's like, I haven't seen some of these people in person, because she lives now 7 hours away from her hometown. I haven't seen some of these people in person in years, but we picked right back up one of the guys who hasn't seen us in decades. We're like, there's the girls, always hanging out, you know. But we keep in contact, like, through Facebook and social media, so they know what's happening, but they can still just get back together and re-click. Whereas other people that she's been friends with for the last like 10 years, she's like, you know what? No, it just doesn't give me the same fulfillment or enjoyment. Like, 'cause if you don't feel fulfilled in a friendship, what is the point of it?
And like we talked about in our last episode about the mutual part of it, right? Like, so it has to be give and take. Absolutely. It can't just be me giving all the time and not getting anything in return. I think that's a segue into why relationships, or why we outgrow relationships, because sometimes people give and never get anything in return.
Absolutely.
And some people are just takers by nature, right? And some people don't know when to say no, because some people will take and continue to take advantage of the situation, or being that they know they need you or you need them in a sense. So I think that's real powerful to think about, you know, your mom and going back to high school, because I have people that I went to high school with that whenever I see them, we just pick up like we, you know, and it's good, right? But those are not people that I talk to every day either.
True.
Right? Because I don't hang around them every day, and they live in a different place, and it may be kind of inconvenient for either one of us to meet up, and our lives just naturally grew apart because we started on different paths.
Absolutely. But I think that is a good thing about what we have in this day and age, social media, keeping up with people, you know, because time is short. And like you said, we are all very busy in life, especially once you have kids and they start giving into activities and stuff. And you might just get new friends from work and whatnot, but you are able to still keep in contact with people. And it could just be as easy as leaving a comment. You know, showing your presence, giving your support to a friend. That's all you need to do sometimes to keep that relationship going, because they'll see that and they'll be like, she was thinking of me. Thank you, you know?
And so social media is a big platform where we use that, right? I think we all have some level of time, a certain amount of time that we use on that thing. to where we stay in contact with people that we couldn't see every day.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the tool. Whenever you use it for the right reason, that's what it looks like.
Right.
So let me ask you this, Kari, because this what came to my mind as we're talking. So why do you think, for instance, if you go back home and you see people that are still back home, now some people will be happy to see you. Yeah. Some people are naturally be like, oh, that's Kari. I remember the time, remember the day. But like, why do you think people would just, some folks just naturally say, oh, she thinks she's too much now. She thinks she's better now, right?
Right. I remember a good friend of mine, one of my good guy friends, he once told me, because that kind of situation happened back when I was working in the news and we happened to go out to a place and there were a lot of people. And he was like, don't ever let anybody diminish your shine. People don't always want to see you do well. And I'm thinking like, well, why not? Like they're my friends. And he's like, not everybody that you grow up with is your friend. Yeah. And let me tell you one thing, my town is awesome. It's a great small town and people that live there want to live there and they have a great life and they're enjoying it. So I'm not saying that about everyone, but there are people in your lives that they can be rooting for you in front of your face, but they are not doing anything to help you behind your back, you know. So you only really want the people around you that are going to root for you no matter what in life. Yeah,
so that's good, because you know I always struggle with that, because one of the things that I struggle with is that I always expect people to be just like me, right? Yeah. So whenever I see people win, it's like I won, right? You know, and I'm cheering that on and I'm happy for them. But like the same thing is not reciprocated. Like I'm telling you, I've had to encounter some people that whenever you start pulling back the layers on some of this stuff, like, and you don't really know how hard I've struggled just to get to this place. So you see me doing a Wildcat Way show, you see me on social media, you see certain things happening, not knowing that there's a grind behind this, and you would really not want this life if you had to be in my shoes. So I never know why people find themselves jealous of what they see other people doing and not happy for them.
But that's just one easy way that should put up a red flag and be like, okay, that's not a friend. That's not a true friend. Because, you know, think about like our sports teams here at PRCC. Those boys and girls that are playing basketball or baseball or football are rooting for their teammates, right? The baseball team comes to every single football game and roots on the football team. The same thing, like the girls' basketball game, our baseball boys are just lined up in the student section rooting them on because they want to see their Wildcats win, you know? That's the type of people that you want in your life, people who are going to support you, people who just want to see you shine no matter what.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you, Kari, like just thinking about outgrowing these friendships, some people don't have the capacity to grow to that level of cheering people on, to supporting people, right? And it's not that they can't get to that level, but I think the environment, when you talk about the circumstances created the friendships, you think about the environment creates their response and how they live. Everybody may be like that. Everybody may think on that level. So you've been exposed to more. You've traveled the world. We talked about that prior to the show on how you've been able to experience a different thing, different people. And some people never get that exposure, and that's why those relationships they just dwindle. They never grow.
Absolutely. And sometimes you have to keep it in mindset too. You can't hold all people accountable to the same standard that you hold yourself, and therefore you can't make it like their fault that your friendship is falling off, right? Sometimes you just have to say, you know what, we're just taking a different life path, and this is just the way things are going to go.
And it shouldn't be any animosity, right? Like it shouldn't be any malice in my heart towards people that may not say, okay, well, Kendale no longer serves, you know, this part of my life. And I'm like, okay, cool, I get it. But don't let it be it needs to be the same way, because I'm more understanding than most people when it comes to that.
Well, you can't, if you have some sort of friendship with someone in the first place, then it shouldn't turn towards hatred at the end of it. Do you know what I mean?
But Kari, you would be amazed at how many people, when you stop calling, when you stop talking, they think, oh, well, they've changed. They moved away from me. I wonder why we don't talk as much as we do. And I'm like, man, there's nothing wrong. And I always joke with people, they always say, well, Kendale, I hadn't heard from you in a couple months. And I'm like, your phone worked too, right?
I know, exactly.
Like, unless your phone has been disconnected for 2 months, you hadn't called me either, right? So, yeah, I just think it's really important for us to make sure this part of our lives, when we talk about building the healthy relationships and knowing which relationships you've outgrown, because your relationships dictate your life.
True, absolutely.
Right? So the people that I'm connected with now, I thank God that I'm on this path with these people because they hold me accountable. They push me to be a better husband, be a better father, like be a better coworker, whatever that looks like. I can't go to them and not have a upbeat, like they want, hey man, what's wrong with you, man? You talking down, something wrong with you? But I could go back to certain places that I used to be, and that would be right in with the conversation. But I don't want to feed into that either. I want to be growing. I want to be better. I want people to push me even whenever I don't want to be pushed sometimes.
Well, because that won't nourish your soul, right? That won't do anything for you or harvest any good feelings inside of you, which is what you're looking for. Now, there are people that are just built that way, right? So they like to live a life. For some reason, the negativity makes them happy. And so then they surround themselves with more negative, like-minded folk. But we're just not like that. And hopefully the people that are watching this and are listening, if they're listening to a motivational and a positive podcast, then they aren't either. So what we're saying is, if you find yourselves in relationships like this, ask yourself, is this serving any purpose for me? Am I finding fulfillment in this relationship? Is this worth giving my energy to?
Right. And so my dad, he raised me to try to figure out who I needed to be surrounded around. And he would always caution me about thinking that everybody was my friend. He would always caution me about saying, hey, I know you just met them. I know they're cool, but give it some time to see who's really for you. And as I've grown older, that has served true because I'm not so quick to call everybody a friend now. I'm not so quick to let everybody into my personal space or my quality life or my quality world is what I call it. I'm not so quick to do that anymore because I understand that, man, some people have different motives. Some people could have different intentions. And my stuff, I try to come from a pure place. I genuinely want to help people. I don't need a reason why I want to help you. I don't need a reason why we need to be cool. There's no reason why I could pick up the phone and call Kari because I'm looking for something. Hey, you're just checking to see how you're doing, checking to see what's next on the agenda. And we're looking out for each other genuinely, right? But most people don't have that capacity to be that way.
But I mean, I think it is important too, even though that's what our, intent is. Some people just aren't built like that. And sometimes you have to actually like massage those emotions out of them, right? Sometimes people, depending on their circumstance and how they were raised or what they went through in their life prior to coming into your existence, may have gone through some stuff that made them like that, And
everybody has a story.
Absolutely. So sometimes it takes a little while to kind of knock down that wall and get to know somebody. And there are instances where maybe somebody wants to. They desperately want to let you in, but they're scared.
Don't know how. And then when you say they're scared, like you talk about their past. So everybody is a certain way because of experiences, because of choices, because of what they've seen. So I think so often we address the symptoms, but we don't look at what caused them. We don't look at what created it. And so for me, although I know I've outgrown relationships, the reason why I don't hold anything against anybody or look down on anybody is because I understand why those people are the way they are, And to me, I think that my family, my wife and my kids, I always go back to that. Like those people really, really matter. And who I hang around, who I choose to associate with don't just affect me, it affects them too. And even when it comes to students on campus, even when it comes to people starting in business or starting a new job, you got to make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people that's going to take you where you want to go, opposed to remind you of where you've been.
Absolutely. And because it's just the old cliche term, one bad apple in a bunch can ruin the whole thing. I mean, that's true in any aspect of your life. That's true in a team, in a working group, in a friendship. I mean, you just need the one person to kind of ruin it for everyone. And you definitely don't want to be that person, but you also don't really want to be associated with people like that either, right? So you have to make sure if you're giving time to form this relationship and you are putting your energy and your mental capacity into that other person is doing the same thing.
Otherwise it won't grow. It can't grow just one person. Just like with your marriage, if you put everything in it and Jonah doesn't, then without a doubt, this ain't gonna work, right?
Absolutely.
So the same thing is true for relationships. And for me, my close relationships, people come to my house, people that I deal with, right? So that's real personal to me.
Absolutely.
And you have to be growing, you have to be better, you have to want to be better in order for me to let you that close in.
Well, right, because
like
you're allowing them into your personal space, your wife, your children, and your home is like your sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
So you don't let just anybody to come in there. You have to make sure that they are going to value their time and experience there as well. And I think that's true for pretty much anybody, you know, like as long as you're a person that holds things like that in high regard, you're going to feel the same way and want your friends and your relationships to have those same qualities as you do.
Yeah, and then so there's this quote when people talk about money, they said if you have 9 friends that are broke, if you hang around them, you'll be the 10th. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm just talking about the principle behind it is that you're going to eventually gravitate to what they're doing. And if you don't want your life to look like their life, then there's sometimes it may be cool to cut ties. It may be saying, okay, look, it's time for me to let this relationship go. It no longer serves me, I no longer serve them. And it's better for both of us if we just part ways.
And it's like you said earlier, you don't have to sit down and have a talk with a person because like when you said that, I was like, that's so true. Of course, there's not like a certain steps you have to take to remove that friendship from your life, but it'll just kind of happen naturally, right? If you start prioritizing your week, I just don't have time for that right now. Actually, no, I've already have a meeting, or my daughter has dance class, or my son has baseball, or I have a date with my husband, you know. Things like that will just naturally happen over time.
And then the conversation too, when you think about that, like the conversation, we talked about this earlier, like you can't call me with mess.
Right, yeah.
One thing I don't care about is somebody else's business. Right, so calling me, telling me about what so-and-so is doing and who said such and such, like that's gonna be a red flag for me instantly because I know that doesn't help me be better. It doesn't help you be better. So if it's drama, if it's foolishness, if it's 20 years ago conversation, it's probably not something that I need to be associated with because it don't take me where I want to be.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's all the time that we have for today, but we will have a new episode that's going to drop next Tuesday. We'll come up with a fun topic to talk about next week too, maybe another 2-parter. Who knows, you know, we always kind of try to figure it out on the fly. So tune in next Tuesday at 10 a.m. on our YouTube channel as well as our iTunes to listen to the podcast, and be sure to subscribe and share, and make sure to follow all of our social media accounts. That's the Wildcat Way Show on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and like our YouTube Wildcat Way Show page and our iTunes, and we will see you next week.